This week's episode of Here's What I Don't Get is brought to you in part by the TDS WATP crossover event in Philadelphia, out now on the WATP RSS feed. Check it out. Welcome back to Here's What I Don't Get, from north to south, east to west, the only intercontinental podcast to tackle all of life's toughest issues and the longest consecutively running podcast on the See You Next Tuesday podcast network. I am your host, Tab Bird, and with me today from Paraguay, it's El Chaco.
Hola, mi hinchada! Hey,
Well-
man. So you just got back like you're not even 48 hours back home now at this point.
No, I got home not even 24 hours ago. 23 hours ago, basically.
Did you fly? Did you drive? How did you do this one?
I did unfortunately fly to Philadelphia, and it was funny because so I'm on the flight out there. I'm sitting in the front row, the bulkhead seat, and we get up to cruising altitude. Flight attendant gets up. He kind of leans over there. He's like, "Can I get you folks any drinks?" And it's like, "I'll take this. I'll take this. And I'll take a Diet Coke." And the guy then goes back around the galley. I hear the sound of the can pop. Ka-ch-ch. And I'm like, all right, my soda's going to come in momentarily. And then he sits down in the jump seat by the door and proceeds to sit there for the rest of the flight. And I'm reading my book, and I'll be reading my book, and I'll look up and look at him, and he'll look at me, and we'll just kind of look at each other for a second. And then I go back to my book. And then finally,
Air Canada.
Finally, about 20 minutes before we land, he stands up, he comes over to the bulkhead again, and goes, "Sorry, guys, not going to be able to get you those drinks after all." And it's like, that was 45 minutes ago, man.
Oh, it's awesome.
And then he just sits back down. And I'm like,
the balls on that fucking.
what the fuck is
awesome.
happening? My guess is because it was like a little bit of a shaky flight. We were hitting turbulence. My guess is somewhere between taking my order and giving it to me, he they were like, "Oh yeah, don't do the drink service after all." But rather than explain that right away, they were like, it'll be fine in a few minutes, and it just never was. Oh,
dude,
man,
was it major turbulence or just like a little bit?
it was just a little shaky. I mean, it was like, imagine driving over a road with a few potholes.
Yeah, I can imagine that very easily. That's my road to get home.
Yeah.
And by few potholes, it's a lot of potholes. But man, I don't get that about I do get it that you don't want to have major turbulence when you're serving things and stuff like that, but they get super ultra pussy-ish when it comes to just a little bit of a shake in the sky. And I remember when we were flying back to Canada the first time with my son, who was still in diapers, and I had to go and change his diaper. And so I'm in line, I get to the thing, I'm opening it up, I'm changing his diaper, and the turbulence sign comes on, or whatever, the fasten your seatbelt sign, and the lady's trying to get me "Sir, you have to go back there." I'm like, I am not. I'm mid shit transfer here. This is not the time for me to go back. And then she's like, "I don't care," and she gave me the sassy, the sassy flight attendant
Stewardess thing.
The head shake,
Yeah.
"I don't care what you doing in there," and I was like. Screw, just fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this. And man, okay, flight attendants are going to be a future issue for me at some point in time. Cause I dated one, so I know some inside baseball on how they act, but man, oh man, that is a profession mostly filled with complete asshats. And, and so fucking full of themselves, so fucking entitled.
Oh,
and
they're the fucking captains of the sky, man.
And
They're the sheriff of the sky.
much. They get paid so much to travel and go and bang people that aren't their partners in other countries. And
to hand you the smallest cup of soda you've ever had. I actually on my flight back, I kept the little plastic cup that I was given, because I'm pretty sure it's 6 ounces, and I wanted to measure it when I got home, and I haven't done that yet. But they pack that fucker with ice, and then they pour 4 ounces of soda in there so they can get 3 servings out of a can. And yeah, the on the flight back, I was once again bulkhead. I think I like it almost more than exit row because it's a little quieter and your first one off. And especially Southwest where you can check a bag. Like I have my backpack and it has like my tablet, a charger, a thing of deodorant, my brush, like you know,
Essentials.
very very essentials, just the stuff that I kind of need to get on and off the plane. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll put like a single change of clothes in there just in case something gets lost. um and so
Common enough.
I get on the plane, I throw my bag in the little thing, I'm sitting in the window. There's a guy comes, he sits on the aisle, and then we're having a great time, and then this fat black woman comes
Every
up,
time.
and she's like, I'm gonna sit here. Can't buckle the seatbelt. She's got a big roller bag, and then she has this like, the reusable grocery bag type deals.
Mhm.
Later find out just fucking full of snacks, just fucking packed to the rafters full of
And
snacks.
seasoning.
She tries to stuff the roller bag under her front seat, and the bulkhead, they're like, you can't have anything, you can't tuck anything, everything has to be in a storage bin. And so she gets up, she can't get anything in these storage bins because they're all full. And so then they're like, yeah, you're gonna have to put that bag at the back of the plane. She's like, I can't put this at the back of the plane, then I'm all the way up here and my shit's at the back of the plane. The guy's like, put your shit in the back of the fucking plane. So I think they eventually took the bag from her and put it in the back of the plane. And then right before landing, she's like, I'm going to go get my bag. And he's like, you cannot have a fucking bag in the fucking bulkhead. And I was waiting for her to be like, well, the only person it's going to affect is that guy if there's a fire. And I'm be like, bitch, I'm not dying in a plane fire because you got some fucking bag full of shit. And I'm also thinking you've got this fucking roller bag. Why didn't you check it? And then I discover the reason why she didn't check it, because I saw her as I was Ubering away from the airport. She had two smaller bags that she had apparently checked, and she kept that one because it had the wheels. It's like, get a bigger fucking suitcase. Like, I have this Amazon Basic suitcase that I paid a fucking $20 for, $40 for. That like, it's way more than I need for a weekend trip, but it's just like, I just put everything in there. I put my fucking pillow in there and just fucking throw it on. Hey, make this meet me in Philadelphia. See you later. I march into the airport and I can put my gun in it.
Oh man, yeah, airline travel in general just sucks.
It's
like
the fucking
worst.
worst. Yeah.
You know what's actually like underrated is train travel in Europe.
Yeah. Well, that's because
in Europe.
everything's 10 feet away from everything else.
Yeah, it's great because like you don't know what. Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's like you don't have to go through all the security crap, and they got that Schengen zone, so you can basically like go from country to country and never get your passport stamped. Like I always laugh about that. I'm always thinking to myself, like if an international criminal was on the run, you just like go to one of those countries and just randomly just go into another country. They'll never know where you are. Well, they'll know if your phone or your bank card, but if you're gonna run away from somewhere like the Schengen zone of Europe, great idea. Or Paraguay, who knows? Man, but did you run? So you went to the road rage thing, and did you run into any other like our show related?
I met
alumni
I met Old Man Hound from our Discord. I met Dealey18, who gave us he was the spike producer for last week's formatted episode.
Oh, and he's here now in the
he's
here
in the chat tonight, and he was the guy that sponsored No Hate November.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Delay18. Yeah, good choices.
Met him, met Johnny Loves Flat Women in person, met Oxmad live stream. Like, those events are, despite having retired the Mad Cucks character, I like to go bring it back for those events because it's fun to meet those fans. It's fun to like, you get to like see that silliness in person. And
Buck's been to one. Buck's been to one, at least one, maybe two. Has he gone to one or two?
I know he went to Atlanta. I don't remember.
Okay. And then has Tim been to any or?
Tim has not been to any. Tim and I were going to go to too many games in 2020, but then it got canceled. That's a video game convention in that Philadelphia area.
Oh, okay. But Tony's been.
Tony was at this one, and I finally got to meet him in
Okay.
person.
You never
Tony
met in
was
person?
never met him in person. We've been in a movie together, and we haven't met in person. So I met him in person. I went over to his studio and we recorded a movie, not a movie review for Hack the Movies. I'm not sure when it'll be coming out, but we'll be sure to alert everyone to it when it does hit the YouTubes.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tony's been to that one. I think he went to Road Rage LA too, and he was at the first Philly live show because he's in that area.
Mm, that makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
so you're the
No.
last host I have to meet in person.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually. Maybe I think everybody needs to meet in Mexico.
Mm,
That's what my proposition is. I think we all need to meet in Mexico.
yeah,
Go to an all inclusive resort, kick it for a week, and knock out like a shit ton of bonus content. So drive up those Patreon dollars so that Tab can come down to
everyone.
Mexico, and we'll get Buck and Tim and Tony and everybody come down. So long as Tony's ad revenue doesn't get aced because of everything that I make him disavow.
Yeah,
He was very quick to the button on the Nostalgia Tall ad that ran in the last episode.
yeah. But I think
Yeah.
I finally fixed
So
that
I feel
issue on the website. By the way, we shouldn't have any dynamic ads on this episode, so that's fixed.
good. Good. So yeah, man. On our side of the woods here, my father-in-law has been here for 2 weeks. We're taking him back to Asuncion tomorrow. And we're gonna stay overnight. We're gonna eat at one of those Brazilian churrascarias. Have you ever had? Are you familiar with the churrascaria concept?
Is that where they bring you the like cuts of meat?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they like it gets so obnoxious because they just keep coming, and you're like,
Yeah.
your plate is already full. You're like, dude, like look at my plate. Like, where are you even planning on putting this? And my son,
But you also don't want to say no.
today is like, and don't they like you don't, but like what the system in Paraguay at the Brazilian places is they give you the little green. They give you a little like thing on your table, and you can turn it to like a green light or a red light.
Hmm.
And my son was like, "Oh, don't they do that? Like, yeah, they you can put the red light up, and they don't come." I was like, "Yeah, but they ignore it. Like they just like blow past it and like give it to you anyway." And so, but yeah. It says here, and also, Dealey, I think they banned the tiny alcohol bottles, which is pretty lame. Speaking of that, tonight I'm drinking Underberg. We my father-in-law is Swedish, and there's this drink that they have. It's actually a Danish drink that they drink called aquavit. And I can't find it here. I can't find it anywhere. So I found an herbal German liqueur, and we had extras. So this is what I am drinking tonight. Is my Underberg. So if we have any Germans in our audience here that are familiar with this, have had this at a family picnic or something like that, bottoms up. This one's for you. So
I'm also drinking my heritage. I'm once again consuming the Hochatown Small Batch, the best whiskey made in Oklahoma.
That's awesome, man. I got a new whiskey I want to run by you. I bought a bottle of what they call Sandy Mac. I don't know if you can get that up there, but it's all right. Again, our whiskey selection's not exactly top notch, but it's not the worst either, and it's not pricey enough for you to like regret anything. So
Fuck's sake, this cat's been trying to get in
also,
my
I'm
lap
not
for 10
smoking my
minutes.
pipe tonight. We're gonna have to deal with some technical difficulties tonight because it seems like every so often I get a little lag on my side. Are you getting me on a lag every so often on your side?
Yeah,
Is it gonna?
I am. It's
Okay,
weird.
so just we've acknowledged it. It's on the record. We know it. So if one of us doesn't laugh at each other's jokes, it's not because it wasn't funny. It's because the delay made it so we missed the punchline. That's there's the obligatory cover my ass disclaimer. So so shall
there's a
Go ahead.
question I do want to answer. It says, now that you've saw them both in person, who is fatter, Vinny or Vito? Vito 100%. So Sunday I rode with Vito, Mint Salad, and Riley out to Tony's place because he lives like 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia proper. And I guess Vito is staying with Tony to do some bonus content with them together. And so Tony and I do our movie review. We're up in the living room watching TV, and Vito comes downstairs. He has gone and taken his, I think, second shower of the day. This is how fat this man is. He's like taking multiple showers a day, and
2 showers.
so
At least he's taking them.
yeah, that's true. It's probably the reason why he didn't smell as bad as I expected. But he comes down the stairs and he's just wearing a t-shirt and boxers. And Tony's like, "Hey Vito, you want to put some fucking pants on?" And Vito's like, "Not really. I'm just gonna, let it hang loose." He's like, "No, you're gonna put some fucking pants on in my house." It's
Me and the
disgusting.
boys are gonna hang out with the boys.
Fucking fucked up, man. Anyway,
Oh man. Actually, I appreciated because I wanted to follow up with Tony and try to find him, get him some help for that Ready to Rumble episode that kind of came up in conversation there. So I actually reached out to Sully, who is my wrestler buddy, and I could also reach out to Samson. Samson knows a lot of people as well. We're trying to find wrestlers that were in the movie Ready to Rumble. And the closest we've got is Booker T, because Booker T's based out of Texas, where my buddy is, and he's like, yeah, I got connections, we can get to him. But Booker T is notorious for not really liking white people that much. I was like, oh, we'll look around, but I mean, like Tony's Italian. Some people say that that's not exactly a problematic thing. We'll see, but
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get him that, and also I want to throw it out there. I didn't realize that Tony was a wrestling fan as much as I am. I think from bonus content's perspective, I'm just going to lay it out there. I'd love to do a bonus episode with Tony where all the issues are wrestling related. So if anybody is a wrestling fan who supports this idea, let's egg Tony on to accept this proposition.
well, that sounds like a good bonus episode.
I think it would be. I can finally talk about the stuff I love.
Yeah, there were Mint Salad's watching wrestling, and Vinny Paulino of the Creep Off and WATP is watching wrestling, and Tony's into wrestling, and they're all talking about wrestling all weekend. And I'm like, I have absolutely no fucking idea what they're talking about. I turned to Carl and I'm like, Carl, I think I can have a more coherent conversation with you about sports.
And how did that go?
Well, we didn't. I just thought that comparatively, I have more knowledge of sports
Just as
than the
much.
wrestling. Yeah.
Fair enough, man. That's the thing. Like I used to be a hardcore wrestling fan. Now I'm like a complete casual, fair weather, only show up for the big pay-per-views and good storylines guy. But yeah, there's definitely some deep-seated issues that are wrong with pro wrestling that I would love to get into with Tony at some point in time. So anyhow, shall we get into the issues?
Yes, let's get into the issues. And let me put this on the right thing. There we go.
All right, you got your soundboard?
I do.
Here's what I don't get. Expert liars. Okay, so what do I mean by expert liars? Like, I mean, I was going to bring in lying as an issue at one point in time, but you said that you love to lie a lot
Yeah.
when we're just bullshitting on certain things. And I think there's a difference between, like fibs, white lies, getting out of annoyances. What I mean by an expert liar is somebody who profits from lying, right? Like somebody who stands to gain a lot. And also, so there's different types of lying, but we call one, so the word in Catholicism for making up some false rumor to smear somebody's reputation is called calumny, right? So we call it calumniating. And there's nothing I freaking hate more than like when you see online, like, I mean, the mainstream media does this, and like that's what I'm talking about, expert liars. Like, I mean, somebody who can go on the news, know that what they're saying is full on bullshit. Like it was been rewritten. You're hiding things. You're doing all that kind of stuff. And the fact that you can just do it with a straight face and sleep at night with no problem whatsoever, that gets to me, man. Like I can't, like politicians do it.
Mm-hmm.
like teachers do it. Like politicians especially do it, and on both sides. Like both sides will lie their asses off. But the mainstream media, like I mean, when I go back and I look at things, like we've beat this one to death about COVID-19. But like when I go back and I look at like the amount of lying that they did, and like how they had no problem with any of the lies that they were doing. What's going on?
I have
You
a
look
cat
like
climbing into the ceiling over here. Go ahead.
All right. So, like expert liars, especially like there's a type of liar that profits from it, that like makes their whole living off of lies. Like they put out a lie and then they keep it going. And I went, just loose research on it. Like I was trying to look up like what makes a person like a advanced expert liar. And it requires like a certain mix of qualities in a person. So first off, I mean, you're going to have a good acting ability so that you can be believable, right? And there's people that are really good liars, like they can fake out the lie detector test. They can fake out all types of stuff. They can fake out body language people. Like they're really good at, like, you ever watch that Bombard's body language channel? Like and watch like how there's this like body language expert, and she goes and she like down people's like famous interviews or famous public speeches and stuff like that, and can tell you like when they're lying or where they're going. And it's like there's a lot of body language involved.
No,
but
get the fuck out of here.
And Reacher has been exiled from the island. What is it with cats, eh? Yeah,
that one is specifically a shithead, and he's about to go attack the other cat in the ceiling. Fuck, that hurt. Go ahead.
That's important. But you know what I'm saying is like, so you need this ability to act well enough. Okay. All right.
Get the fuck out of here.
In the audio only. Leave it all in. Just make it the dead air. Everybody loves dead air. You back? There we go. Put on the cans. There we go.
I'm back.
Everything's better. Life is good. All right. No more cat co-hosts for the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
So like, as long as you can act your way through it, and like a lot of these people, what they'll do is, Birch the Great has a really good point here. It says, best lie has a hinge of truth in it. This is the thing a lot of them will do, is they will tell you the part that's true and then throw in the little fib part at the end that they can glaze over really quickly and pivot right over back to the part that's true. And like, it's that whole thing of like, it's the fly in the ointment or the, I used to say, it's like, if it's 99% true, but 1% false, right? It's like a fleck of fecal matter that fell into your ice cream tub. You can't eat the ice cream. It's broken. It's gross. And like, the weird part is like, now I'm seeing, again, back with this Chat GPT bullshit. Like that thing is an expert liar. It's not even the reason why Chat GPT is an expert liar is because it has no soul and it has no like
shame.
Prove it wrong 100%, 100 times over, and it has no apologies. And it gaslights. Like, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's like, fuck you. I don't feel that way. I just proved you wrong. As a language model, I'm incapable of lying. Yes, you did lie. I can show you. Did you say this? And then you also said that. One of them has to be true and one of them has to be false. So one of them is a lie. I'm sorry you feel that way. And that's the thing that like, what really gets me, and I mean, I'm only going to say it's the left because there's some very easy to point out like examples of it where they'll say something and you call them out on it and then they don't backtrack. They don't apologize. They don't like go, well, guys, we shouldn't have told everybody that the masks work, because like, now that we know definitively that it doesn't, we should apologize. No, there's no apology at all. There's no humility. So that's one of the aspects is
there's never any shame. No one ever feels shame.
So, so there's a word for it down here. It's sinvergüenza. You know, oh, that guy's sinvergüenza, without shame, right? Sinvergüenza. Or we say cara dura. He's got a hard face, and it's like, um, that's the thing that gets me, and it's one of those things that I truly don't, is how somebody can just flat out lie and just be totally cool with it. Just be totally cool with it. Like, you've harmed somebody else with your lie. You've cheated your way into getting your win with a lie, and you're totally cool with that. I don't know, man. There's something about that. It's like, it's like when you played board games like Monopoly as a kid or something like that, and there's like the one person that always cheats at it and steals from the bank and stuff like that, and you're like, dude, I caught you. And it's like, oh, well, it's only cheating if you get caught. No, it's just cheating. Like, how do you take satisfaction in the win if you're just living a lie? And there's like race grifters like this. Like, I mean, we've caught so many of these, like where somebody draws a fake swastika, or somebody blames one group versus another one, like the false flag it, like, race hatred things that come up, and you're like, it always ends up being a fake, and you're like, what was your plan? Like Jussie Smollett, there's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good one.
That's a
right
great
there.
one.
That's a good one. So that guy is an actor, clearly has no morals, clearly is a degenerate, and like, what does he do? He still hasn't apologized for it. He still hasn't owned up for it. He's still like, nope, you guys are. The guys you paid to do that have come straight out with your whole story, the whole plan and everything. Give it up. And they won't. And that goes back to that, like I brought up before, like psychopathy, narcissism, and sociopathy. It's this like mentality, which is, it's all self-centered. It has nothing to do with, like, you have zero. And I think you need to have zero empathy to be an expert liar. Beyond that, like, I mean, look into the field of science, right? If you look at the amount of like research that is completely compromised, the amount of data that's been fudged, like, okay, I remember in high school when you're in like chem class, and you're like, you need to get this certain reaction, you need to get this certain observation to just be done the project, and you fudge your facts, you fudge your data just to get on with it. Like, it probably was never going to happen because you probably could never get your beaker clean enough to like not have this certain reaction or something, but you just get on with it. That's different. We're talking about people who've enacted policies knowing full blown that the whole thing is built on a lie. You're lying to people about the efficacy of the shots. You're lying to people about the efficacy of lockdowns. You're lying to people about the efficacy of masks. And you're doing this with a straight face. And the weird part about it is like, all those people who were purveying those lies had to live in a society where everybody else was around with masks. You're watching, you're going out in public, and you're like, that person's got a mask on. Sucker. Look at that sucker. They're stupid enough to go along with it. So that means I can get away with this because if it's their fault for going along with my lie. And that's that mentality, right? It's like demonic. It's like, as long as you can, like, as long as you were stupid enough to fall for it, then it's your fault. And that's the liar, the expert liar mentality. Like, the media does it. There's all types of historical revisionists that do it. There's all types of like politicians that do it. There's just across the board, people who lie nonstop. They inflate their statistics, or they bury something that doesn't look good for them, and they don't care. They don't care. And that's the part that I don't understand. Is like, I don't know, like my ethos, my life is like, I try my hardest to follow the truth. Even if it sucks, even if it's not the best, even if it's like a bad thing for me, I really care about the truth of something, because I don't want to live a lie. Living a lie is brutal. Like, I mean, it's like, the other thing is that these expert liars is that they concoct these storylines, and they're really good at remembering the facts so that they can, and good at pivoting when something comes up, like you get caught on, and then they go and they divert into something else to make you feel like shit for picking them off on the thing. And I just, man, I hate it. Do you run into this, like expert liars?
I think the best example I can think of is like, it's probably the most diabolical because it's homegrown and it's your local news station in the United
Oh, the
States.
worst.
You'll get these news stories about like these 10 chemicals that'll kill your kid, or like they'll exaggerate the risk of something happening, like what your teen's talking about online, and they'll sensationalize, and they'll take like a little kernel of truth and then expand it into this massive lie and narrative for the sake of, getting this viewership. And I and like so when Tim and I were in high school, channel 8 no channel 6 broke into
Okay.
our high school. They broke in to do a story on school security and how school security is porous and like all this stuff. And so they made their way in through a side door, and then they wandered around the halls. Now they were seen on cameras entering the school, wandering the halls. The school was put on lockdown. The security guards came and escorted them out. But they like took this couple of minutes of footage that they had, before they got rounded up, and they put that on the news and they just played the story. They didn't tell the story about how the reporter and her cameraman were held by police for an hour before they cleared everything and let us leave our classrooms.
Right.
They didn't tell the story about how because of what they did, we got like in prison, we got cracked down upon for every little fucking thing. So all of a sudden, they just like ran the story about how all your schools are horribly porous to get these like Karen parents to watch the news and be afraid. And I remember this, and I was because I was so pissed off. It was about the time of the Tulsa State Fair, and Channel 6 had a booth at the Tulsa State Fair, and Lori Fulbright, the cunt who's still on fucking Channel 6 News to this day, as far as I know. Last I was in Tulsa, she was still on the fucking billboards. Is there with doing, signing autographs for people. I'm such an important reporter in this fucking Tulsa, Oklahoma. You're a worthless cunt. I walked up to her and I was like, "Do you realize what you did? Like, do you realize the lie that you told? Are you going to apologize to anybody? Apologize to me just for the difficulty you've created in my life." She's like, "No, what I did was important." She lied to my face
Yeah.
about what I did was important. Like I was helping you. That's important to
Fuck
expose
off.
these kinds of fucking things. And like, I would love to have 5 minutes alone with Lori Fulbright in a room with no cameras. To this day, I mean, that was like fucking 15 years ago, and I can still remember like her eyes were just empty. They were completely devoid of humanity. And she's looking at like, I don't know, I wasn't old enough to drive, so 14, 15 years old. And she's just lying to my face and felt nothing.
That's what I mean. Zero
And,
empathy.
and
Zero.
it's just
They're
like,
super predators, these people.
yeah,
They are.
but then it planted the seed. Okay, she's lied about this story. What else? Then what else has she lied? Everything has to be a lie, and that's probably the beginning of my red pill on the news. But I kind of always hated the local news, but it's you deal with these people all the time, and you deal with people that will just lie to your face about problems and the issue, and try and shift the focus away from themselves if it's going to give them any blowback, and oftentimes they'll try and destroy you for
Mhm.
being like in the right. Like I've
Yeah,
I've had
because
that
that-
happen to me too.
Or they'll smear you, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
like this guy's protesting this thing. He must be a Nazi, like this guy must be a white supremacist or something like that. And it's like they have no morals. They have no moral compass on these things. And like what's interesting, like so going back to like the news, like for example, George Zimmerman, right? George
That's another great
Zimmerman.
example.
They edited the audio so that his like call made it sound like he was like just like hyper focused on the fact that the guy was black. They cut out entire portions, they slam it together, they edited it like crazy. And like I get it. So again, like we know, Joel, you worked in wrestling, you talk about wrestling, but wrestling is a business of lying. The whole thing is built off of a lie, right? Like it was built by carnies. Like they played it off like it was a real thing, but it's all a lie. That's one of the things that like the hardest part is it draws the worst people in. to the business. Like a lot of the wrestling people that I work with are complete fucking awful people. And like the news is just as bad, if not worse. The news is wrestling. The news is fake. And like George Zimmerman's one, good
Another thing
people
they
on
did
both
with-
sides is one.
Yeah.
You know, like we watch this all the time. Nothing ever comes of it. They never get their comeuppance. They never get the comeuppance. Don Lemon got fired today. And Tucker Carlson and Fox split ways today. So those are two liars that are, you know, looking for work. So they'll find it, I'm sure. Somebody who's going to pick them up right away. But like,
Yeah.
it's man, it's infuriating. It's infuriating because you sit there, you point at it, and you go, "That's a lie," and then like, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory," and then like 3 months later, it's like, "Well, actually." We didn't actually say this thing. Like Trudeau said, like, oh, Canada doesn't do vaccine passports. Well, that's not even in our constitution. Like, that was in February. Fucker put it in like he put they had him across the country by the end of October. So it's like those kind of things drive me crazy because nothing fucking ever happens. And the problem is that like
We
it
have no
sends the
attention
wrong
span.
message. Well, yeah, people don't have an attention span. Well, I brought it up before about like the Stephen Colbert thing. So when they fired James Comey, and then the crowd reacted with like cheers, and he's like, "Wait, no, that's bad because Trump fired him," and then everybody like booed. It's like on a dime, he flicked the switch, and they had to change their minds like immediately. It was crazy.
Pulled out that cassette tape and put in the Comey Good cassette tape.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like. So this is the thing. So not to get too theological about it, but like little lies lead to big lies, right? If you get super comfortable with little lies all the time in your life, you're going to get more comfortable with big lies later on. And they do snowball because a little lie can turn into a big lie based on covering your ass. Tell the truth because then you don't have to lie. Because you're just keeping up with the truth. And there's a lot of famous people that just fucking lie and like they get away with it. And like you can like piece together these things, but nothing ever comes of it. But Jesus himself, he straight up called it. He goes like, you are of your father, the devil, the father of lies. Lying comes from evil. It's an evil tendency. And we can kind of play it off like, yeah, sometimes it's okay to lie about this and that. Like I remember when I was a kid, my uncle took me to the horse races. And I think it was something like, under a certain age, I think under a certain age, the kid's free. And over a certain age, the kid's, you got to pay for a kid.
$5, yeah.
And so like he was doing this thing. I just wasn't a liar kid. Like I just didn't like, it always made me feel sick. I don't know. I'm weird that way. But like, it was like, he told me is like, okay, when you go in here, you're going to tell him you're 6. But I'm not 6, I'm 7. Like, but when we go in, just like, if he asks you, you're 6. And then I get to the front and he's like, are you, how old are you? And I'm like, he's like, he's 6. I'm like, I'm 7. He ended up having to pay for me. I ended up winning him money. I picked 2 horses that won it. It ended up,
So you
did
made
okay
the
in the
money
end.
back.
But the thing is like, it's
See,
this,
I think this is
Go
where
ahead.
we differ because I am pro lying, but I'm not like I'm not like a narcissist where I create these elaborate concoctions. I believe lying is a tool. I agree with you that there's a certain amount of evilness to it, but I
Mhm.
believe that lying to the people that lie to you, the people that want to destroy you, I feel that that's completely justified. And when I lie to those people, I feel nothing because I know that they would kill me before they hate you and they want you dead. And so I'm totally fine with lying. I'm fine to an extent lying to the NPCs that will follow those people.
Right.
I would not lie to you as a friend or my family, or my coworkers, that like the people that matter in your life. There are people though that I will and have lied to because self-defense. It's a self-defense lie.
Okay, so here's the funny thing about that. So like again, I was looking up about lying and the propensity to lie. And I asked Chat, I was like, are there cultures that are more conducive to lying than other cultures?
Go back and say, I asked ChatGPT because I lost all of that.
Sure. I asked GPT if there are cultures that are more like conducive to lying than other cultures. And I learned about this concept that I hadn't learned before, which was about high context societies and low context societies. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not.
Okay, so it's by this cross-cultural sociology study. There was a bunch of studies in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And really what it broke down to was there are it's a matter of a type of culture that it really cares about saving face, right? Really cares about your image, really cares about like how you present yourself. And so those are the ones that, and it ties into narcissism, but like, for example, you're going to have like a high context society would be like a lot of the Asian societies. So like China and Japan, yes. And like Latino. I'm looking at these list of these things. I'm like, and then it's like the low context societies are societies that are more direct, that will say the truth on its face value, whether it's pleasant or not. And then it like listed like the societies that are like that. It was like England, United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Germany. It's like looking through all these things like, so white people. It's like that's like a white people thing, but it's not. There's a bunch of white people that lie, but I asked ChatGPT that, and it was like, no, you can't say that. I was like, well, it kind of is, but this is the thing. If you go from a religious standpoint, so I just say, like in Christianity, lying is not allowed. It's just not allowed, man. Like you're not supposed to be a liar in Christianity. You're supposed to tell the truth as much as you possibly can. Now, even your example. There's a biblical example of lying to save against like a persecutor or something. That was I think it's in the book of Joshua when they were coming in, and there was like they had spies that were going in and they needed to be hidden, and the lady hid them from these soldiers that were coming to look for them. So there's examples of when, like in your example, like a lie to save your life is different. Okay. But like from a religious standpoint, so for example, in Islam, they have a concept called al-taqiyya, which is like where you lie to save yourself, save the religion, and save the ability of the religion to propagate and to grow in strength. The Talmud says a lot about lying and how great it is when you're lying against the goyim or the Gentiles. I'm not going to go down that road because I don't want to lose Tony. But like there are clearly like different societies that have different values on the truth and lying and who's okay with it and who's not. And it's frustrating because the thing is like, if we're not operating on the same rule book, right, you will have an advantage over me. And a lot of people know that about Christians. They know that a lot about Christians. And that's why they need to like butter up the liar hypocrite Christians, the ones who are like, like
the ones who are like in a long-term relationship,
pastors who have like, a giant fleet of private airplanes. And like, they just don't give a shit. Like they're just ripping people off. It's super demonic. And like, it's at the end of the day, you realize that like, man, like I have to stay truthful and honest for him and for my family, because I want my kid to learn like dad tells the truth. Like, how shit would it be if all of a sudden I'm teaching my kid like, yeah, your dad's just a big fat liar, lies all the time, he gets caught. Yeah, you can't believe anything your dad says. Your dad's a piece of shit. He lies all the time. And a lot of people have that dad. A lot of people have that dad, and I feel for them. It sucks. Like my dad taught me never to lie. Like the whole time when I was growing up, it was like, look, man, it's like there'd be times where actually we used to incentivize what does that mean, by the way?
I think he means you sent in 3 of them. I think that's what
Oh,
he's talking about.
what does that mean?
The one that I delivered the card to the stage for. I told you about it before the show. Joel sent in the biggest problem to the live show. Yeah.
Yeah. No. If I would have sent it in, you'd have 6 million more cards. So I basically was saying that, like, we were taught all the time to have.
I don't think you could make that many cards in that short of a time, Joel. I mean, that's a lot of cards to really squeeze in to one weekend.
Listen,
just,
it's
the math isn't
documented. It's
working out,
documented.
man.
I could have a lot of cards printed off in a
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you have
period.
6 printers
you
and they're,
just, like, you don't know what our if I got it at a German printing house that was very efficient with like 40s technology. So, anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is, like, my dad used to say, he used to incentivize the truth. It was like, you know, that it's like a plea bargain, right? Like, you're better off coming in hard with the truth, like admitting it, admitting your fault, like admitting you fucked up, admitting all those kind of things, and your punishment will be less. It's like this whole group of people have never learned that, and but they don't need to learn it because they don't get fucking punished for it. Like, they get rewarded
and they don't feel
for
shame.
None.
Yeah.
And, like, there's a bunch of people out there that completely sell out their own people. They sell out all their friends. They sell out their religion. They sell out all of it. And just for what? For what? To get an extra vacation or two? That's what it goes back to. Like, I mean, you go back to the fucking lockdowns and the masks, and all those assholes were at, like, dinner parties with no masks on and out in, like, big group things, and then they had the audacity to, like, put on a mask just for a photo op and then go back to it. And it's like, these people are absolute psychopaths. And, like, we need to be taught, and they're never going to teach this in school. You got to be taught how to spot a lie better, right? Like, I mean, like, you that's a big skill. And, like, I've said this to you the air, like, my whole job is spin, right? So I spin. My job is spin. I never lie, though. I never lie. I just find the best part of a thing and I highlight the best parts, but I never put out any actual lies. There are people, like, that was the thing that blew, like, the beginning parts of COVID. It was like demonstrably lying, and you could prove it, and it didn't matter. There was no penalty for them. Nothing. No penalty for them at all. And so rules are really only for us normies. And that's the, that's the reality. And it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Cry about it? I guess. Or I guess so. I'm just gonna, like, one of these days you'll get your comeuppance. Yeah, in 2 more weeks. But that's there's so many of them. And, like, grifters, like, I don't know if you saw, but, like, in the right-wing circles, like, there was the Stop the Steal guy, Ali Alexander Akbar. The guy who looks like Sammy Davis Jr. So he's getting outed as, like, a pedophile. Like, I mean, he was just, like, grooming, like, teenage boys and all this kind of stuff. He was just complete piece of shit. But what is he doing front facing? He's trying to steal our shtick. He's like, oh, I'm a traditional Catholic. Let's go to mass. Let's go to mass and do all this kind of stuff. Like, you fucker. Like, you are living this double life. You're doing this horrible fucking backdoor stuff. And you're putting it out there, like, as if, like, you're, like, Mr. Traditional Catholic. Go fuck yourself, man. Like, you're just living a lie. You're an expert liar. And he's really good at it because he's made millions off of these grifts. Millions. Let's raise money, get the text out there. Let's get that organic grassroots movement going. And then people donate, and they're honest, hardworking people. Dupes, honest, hardworking people. And they try to go out and to do this stuff. And it's just, here we go. Crowder and his Stop Big Con while he's pulling a condom. That's all these guys. They're total grifters. They're total grifters. And, like, they have to live the lie, and the lie has to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's also the lie of omission, right? So, like, we talked about how, like, as long as, like, most of it's the truth, but there's the lie of omission, which is, like, these people that go out there and they'll, like, point at this problem, this problem, this problem, but now we're going to talk about that one because that one's not. We can't talk about that. We can't talk about that one, right? Like for example, like the Catholic Church, right? I'll call it the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church did its own research, and it was on the pedophilia. stuff,
Mhm.
right? Like we all hate it. Like I'm never gonna be like defending it. Like, well, it's not that bad. It was fucking awful. It was fucking awful. It's still awful. It needs to be dealt with, and there's gonna be a day where it's gonna be dealt with. But the thing is that they did research on this, and it was like 98% like young. It was just, and it wasn't even that young. They were like 13 to 15-year-old boys that were being groomed by these men. And like the study came out and it was like, this is a homosexual problem. And the church was like, no, you can't say that. It's not it's a pedophilia problem. It's just only a few people doing it. You can't say that about homosexuals. Like, no, it's a homosexual problem. It was a homosexual problem. You're making it sound like my daughter is just as much at risk with these priests as my son is. That's just not true. And the problem is that if you keep lying to yourself, you keep lying about the statistics, if you keep lying about the history in the past, you keep lying about these things, it's fucking damaging. It's damaging because everybody has to cover for the lie at a certain point. Everybody has to cover for it. It's not just one liar. It's a whole bunch of them. And this whole thing of like, this couldn't have been this couldn't have been a controlled thing or a conspiracy thing, because think about how many people would need to be in on it. I can think about how many people would be in on it. There's a fucking lot of liars. A lot of them. And you know what? They congregate and they find each other and they cover for each other. And that's how the world works, unfortunately, until we call them out and we actually have some sort of real avenues to get some action. We're not there yet, but someday, maybe, who knows? But I don't know. That's my issue is expert liars. They fucking drive me nuts.
And they,
it's the worst when you're watching them on TV. Oh, man.
Yeah, they seem to have the reins on way too much of our lives too. Like
everything.
It almost needs to be a rule that if you seek, if you want to be a journalist, if you want to be a politician, if you want to be in these positions, that should be like the number one strike against you.
Honesty? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. Like just the mere desire to have those types of jobs is just completely, oh no, you're not qualified for this at all. I'd rather have the guy who's like, I don't want to fucking do this job.
Yeah, but that we're never gonna get that guy. And like it's weird because okay, so like just a sidebar here. Like journalism took a big fucking step back when social media started taking over, right? And like we've seen the graphs of like, after like Occupy Wall Street, like all the media suddenly decided that they were all on critical race theory and it was all white supremacy's fault for everything.
Yeah.
And none of the other groups are guilty of anything. It's all one group and it's only white people, especially the non-Jewish white people, the Christian heretics that we put in the movies all the time. Those not heretics, hypocrites. And like, and like you saw this groove, this upward groove on this chart of like these terms that were getting used in stories across the mainstream media. And there was another study that just came out. It wasn't just in the United States. It was a world that all of this started taking place at the same time. But there was a point to that. And the point is that when I was growing up, we would get the newspaper dropped off at our house every day. Right. And like we dive into the newspaper, who gets the comics, who gets the sports pages, and dad gets the news and dad gets the business section. And like now, and I think like Buck has brought it up. It's like the algorithms on Facebook will know if I stop for a half a second longer to look at a picture, they're going to now give me more stuff about that topic just because I didn't even click on it. I just scrolled a little slower. I'm like, what's that? Oh, okay, don't worry about it. And like that is in there. So now they know this. And the only way to get your attention is like through outrage, right? Like it's just through outrage. And so like they know, the left knows if they can whip up their own group into a frenzy of like, can you believe the right is doing this? And the right, they take it and they're like, can you believe the left is saying this? They're fucking like, this is stupid. And you get these clicks that just come from both sides on these hate clicks and regular clicks. And it's ruined all of our news. Not like our news was clean. Our news was garbage and bullshit before. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
But like now it's even worse. And now you've got on top of that, you've got the algorithms. On top of that, you've got Twitter like lying its ass off when it was like, oh, you know, it was like a Russian misinformation thing for Hunter Biden. Oops, sorry, no, wait, we were wrong. It's like we knew right from what do you like? This is ridiculous. But the fact that so many of them can lie to get on with it, and it's just that this is a leftist thing. This is communist, leftist, Marxist, call it what you want, thing of this by any means possible. So that this by any means or by any means necessary. They will lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they need to win. Because and I always think to myself, like, man, if you have to do that for your side to win, to be right, to be righteous, like you fucking lost. It's over. If you had to cheat, you had to lie, you had to go always, you had to smear somebody and get rid of them. You're the fucking loser. Like you're the fucking worst person out there. If you are lying and smearing to take out your competition and come out with something that is completely not true, like you fucking lost. Yeah, you might have won the little battle, but you're gonna lose in the end. Mm-hmm. You have no soul. You've sold yourself out. You're the fucking worst. So that's my issue for this week.
That's a good issue.
We don't go into the 3-hour territory, and I think we're on the right path. Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Last week's episode was our longest episode ever, by the way. Pretty cool. Anyway,
was it really?
Yeah, 3 hours and 17 minutes.
Too long.
Yeah. Well, this that brings us to the middle of our episode, which means it's time for me to play that sound effect again.
This episode is brought to you in part by the Rocada News Network. Definitely not fake news.
Well, I've got some news here. Speaking of stuff that they're going to turn into fake news later, a huge Texas explosion that burned 18,000 cows to death was ignited by their farts. Oh, this is a story that I absolutely believe, and I don't believe is going to be a data point to be like, you shouldn't get to eat meat because cows are bad for the environment. So here's this little piece of propaganda. A massive explosion in Texas that killed $28 million worth of cattle may have been ignited from the gassy animal farts. South Fork Dairy Farm in Dimmitt, U.S. suffered the deadliest cattle fire ever in U.S. history on Monday, which left thousands of cows dead and one worker in a critical condition. And now investigators believe a machinery malfunction on the farm may have been ignited by methane gas. What they mean to say is the methane gas may have been ignited by machinery, I think, unless they're just, so stupid when they're writing this propaganda. The devastating fire then tore through the holding pens and, killed the cows. So this is going to be this is devastating. There's been a lot of weird fires at food plants and stuff over the last few years that it's it kind of seems like you're trying to cut down on the food chain so you can starve us all to death.
Didn't I bring up the chicken plant didn't I bring that up in a recent episode?
Yeah, that was in the last month or two.
Yeah. Because chickens, highly flammable, right? And chicken cages. So flammable, just up like a tinder box. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely nuts. And these cereal
with cows. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cows. I have to watch out. Like my neighbor's cows could just spontaneously explode at any point in time because just one too many farts and they're good to go.
Yeah. So the few cows that survived, they're saying may have to be destroyed. But yeah, the whole thing seems like a scam to me. Even if the fire were legitimate, now they're going to take the kernel of truth and blow it up out of proportion and be like, well, you shouldn't be eating meat anyway. The price of meat's going to go up. I mean, $28 million in profit it doesn't just disappear. It has to be added to the cost of all the other cows that survive.
And I just read this last week that they're actually backtracking on the whole cow methane is bad for the environment thing because there's actual other gases in their off-gassing that actually counters that effect. But of course it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're just going to lie about it. They don't care.
The science is settled. Cows cause global warming. You need to eat these shitty meat substitutes to save the planet. But let's move on to some little bit of lighter news.
One quick second. I'm going to salute my My sister is watching the stream for the with us here. So welcome, Sis Chaco.
Hello, Sis Chaco.
Anyways, Hermana
thi-
Chaco. Hermana.
This one may be in your wheelhouse as well. A used sex doll may be possessed, says a doll
Wait.
collector.
Oh, okay. It might be possessed. I was like,
Yeah.
What do you think? I have a used sex doll thing.
A man has a series of odd encounters after purchasing a used sex doll from a stranger online. The unidentified Thai man who collects sex dolls thought he had a good deal when the person approached him with a flawless life-size doll at a discount. He paid 25,000 baht, with less than the original offer price of 40,000 baht, and his girlfriend thought the doll was realistic and resembled her. He then dressed up the sex
Aw,
doll, combed its
sweet.
hair, and kept it upstairs bedroom with the rest of his collections. The following day, the man heard a noise from upstairs and discovered a comb on the floor. He also noticed that the doll's hair was in a mess. This despite him having combed its hair the night before. So he fixed the doll's hair again and replaced the comb. When the man returned home from an outstation work trip several days later, he noticed the doll's face had been turned towards the door, although he had positioned it to look straight ahead before he left for his trip. So this guy is dealing with a demon in a sex doll and also like some severe autism or something because you have a real woman at home, you fucking weirdo.
All right. So I'm going to offer a correction here. Items, objects, sex dolls can't be possessed. They can be infested. They can be infested. So places, things can be infested, but only people can be possessed. But I want to know I think that maybe that I think that the girlfriend's to mess with his head, because she can't be going along with it. Oh, it looks just like me. But maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it is. You're committing mortal sin. So I mean,
By
it's
having
like a thing
sex
that's
with
I
a
don't-
doll.
Yeah. When is that movie coming out? You know what I mean? Like, because we've had Chucky, we've had a bunch of these movies about like puppets and all this kind of stuff that come to life. When's that movie coming out?
It came out in the 80s. It was called Cherry 2000.
It came out. Wasn't that Lars and the Real Girl? That was the other one. Right?
That's another one. Yeah.
Mannequin. That was another one. That was another one. Mannequin with Kim Cattrall. What other ones are there? There's got to be more.
Replicate. I mean, that's what Weird
Replicate.
Science is basically.
Basically, yeah, and they're all possessed. I'm sure. Yeah, that checks out. Any more news?
Yes, I have one more. This is so, have you ever been in a place that's maybe a little dangerous and you fear the thing? Like if you were standing on train tracks, what would you be afraid of?
Train coming.
A train coming, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this man was urinating on train tracks and was killed by a flying cow that had been hit by the train. Well, like, I imagine he's just like, what do you mean I got killed by a flying cow? I was standing on train tracks.
Sorry, it cut out. Could you repeat to me? Because it cut out on my side. And basically, I just heard he was standing on the train tracks, and then something about a flying cow.
He was standing on the train tracks urinating, and then he was killed by a flying cow that had been hit by the train. So like the train was down the ways, hit a cow, flung it through the air, and kills this man.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That seems like video game physics.
Yeah, it does. Shivdalia Sharman, a man believed to be a retired electrician, was urinating on the tracks in Alwar, India, when he was hit by the cow after had been hit by a Vande Bharat train. An autopsy has confirmed his identity and what he was doing at the time of his death. The cow flew 30 meters, or 90 real measurements, and landed on him and then crushed him to death. And so, yeah, how bizarre is that?
Okay, and also, like, you just said that it's in India, and like, don't they have like in a lot of parts of India like a huge reverence for cows?
Yeah.
Right. So like in their eyes, like that was like hand of God stuff, right?
It's got to be.
It would be. Yeah. Well, it would be. Like, why is this cow flying 30 feet? Like, did it fart and then like the ignition of the like rocket boost him all the way through there?
Yeah, it was actually the methane that killed him. The cow hitting him was totally secondary.
Yeah,
apparently,
pillowed off of him.
Yeah, apparently this is not a isolated incident as far as the cow being hit by trains. And it's so bad that they've decided to do something about it by erecting fences along the stretch of train track. Like, yeah, welcome to the year 1803 of
That's
fucking build a
costly
fence.
though. Yeah, that's costly though. India,
Just
you know, that's a lot of country to cover.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's
All right.
that's our news for this week. So this has been and that takes care of our legal obligation this week, but you know what doesn't take care of?
Paying the bills.
If you want to help us pay the bills, you can visit us over at subscribestar.com/HWIDG, tip.hwidg.com, and patreon.com/HWIDG, which stands for.
Here's what I don't get.
And over on Patreon, we have 5 tiers. We have the $1 tier, which gets you early access to each week's episode and our monthly minisodes. We have our $2 tier, where we throw some random bits and bobs we do now and again. We have our $5 tier, where we do our bonus episodes. Here's what I do get, where we drop the hate and talk about what's great. We have our $10 tier, where we do a movie commentary that you submit. You vote on what we watch, and we watch it and watch the whole movie and talk about it. And then finally, we have our $50 Spite Producer tier, where you get a say in the show.
Yeah, thank you, Dealey18.
Thank you, Dealey18. Yeah, we did the episode 334 last week, where we did episodes all about podcasts as a kind of a fun stick it to our friend Carl over at WATP. And so, yeah, we want to say thank you to all our patrons.
That was a
big and
popular
small.
episode, by the way.
It was. And actually,
Yeah.
I should mention, so I put up a voting on the post, all of our different issues. And number 1 was advertisements, my issue. I think I kind of stacked the deck there, though, with the what was it? All the dynamic ads that were inserted. Tied for
$6,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
tied for second place. Audio issues and poor archival. Chaco and Tim's issues. Then pod fading TV recap
Oh, cool.
shows were mine. Buck's liquidation stores, which was not podcast related. My issue of networks, and then finally in last place, co-host that suggests bad episodes, Tony from Hack the Movies. Didn't even beat
Tony.
an issue that was not about podcasts. So,
It was a bad suggestion by a co-host. That's what it was. So
yeah, Tony fucked up in the most spectacular way possible. Vito mailed him his merch to get to the show, and so of course Tony did not check his post office box before the show happened, and then ended up buying a bunch of white T-shirts at like Walmart on the way into the show, and just writing crudely on with Sharpie on them Vito's merch, and I think Vito sold out of those. Absolutely
Really?
infuriating to watch. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but let's get back into some issues. Here's what I don't get: women in the workforce. That's right, bringing out my misogyny. No, I'm kidding.
Fanboys. There we are. There we are. I lost you for a second there. Okay, I'm back.
So I was thinking about this the other day, and I think one of the single biggest contributing factors to the decline of our culture and our identity as people, and why we've like slid into this downhill slope of just degeneracy that we live in now, is divorce.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
100%. I
And
agree with you on. Yeah.
And there are lots of theories on why, divorce is on the rise. I remember years ago, it was like 50% of all marriages end in divorce, and the number
That's
just
higher
keeps
than that.
growing. Yeah, now. And, but you look back in, the 50s and 60s, and even before that, divorce was basically unheard of. And when you go back and look there, you start to, I start to ask questions of myself like, well, what has changed? And a big thing that's changed is women in the workforce. And what I think women in the workforce has done is it's changed our social dynamic. So if you think about your parents or your great-grandparents, the stories you may have heard, depending on your age range, but I'm talking about like the greatest generation or the silent generation before the baby boomers, because the baby boomers are the ones that are like really causing this fucking problem. The story was always like, oh, grandma and grandpa, they met in high school, and grandpa fell in love with grandma instantly, and grandma said that she didn't want to like get married so young, and then grandpa went off and fought World War II and came back and asked her to marry him again, and they got married, and then they had 17 kids, and they lived together for
Based.
65 years, and they died.
Yeah.
And like they bought this home when they first got married, and they raised all 17 kids in that home, and they visited all their grandkids in that home, and then they dropped dead, and your fucking piece of shit boomer parents sold the house off and split the money amongst themselves, and
Went traveling.
got divorced. And so
Yeah.
what I think the difference was between like my grandparents' generation and especially my generation was that my grandparents, like, they got married, and my grandmother stayed home to raise the kids. And I'm not, like, oh, women should be barefoot in the kitchen. But what it did was my grandmother was not exposed to other unmarried men, or exposed to men not in the presence of their wives. Like, they had family family friends they get together with, people from their church, social clubs, and those kinds of things. But those were all married couples getting together with married couples, parents of children getting together with the other parents of their children. With the way the world is today, women are in work. They're exposed to, men different than their partner. They may be taller, they may be handsomer, they may earn more money, or they're younger,
Richer.
or they're more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they there's lots of different factors, and we all have that, like, the grass is greener on the other side mentality. And you're working in proximity, and a lot of times proximity breeds. So much of what I think
that's a real thing.
Yeah, what I think love is
the mere exposure effect.
Is the exposure effect, and
Yeah.
you kind of the way that I think relationships end is like familiarity breeds contempt, but also you constantly get shown this out, and you stop having like the meaningful conversations that break down in communication, and then boom, everything explodes. And so having women in the workforce and has just led to, because women instigate 80% of all divorces, it's like, whereas our grandparents, our grandmothers could have maybe grabbed someone better than our grandfather, but they had responsibilities. And now it's like, well, I can always just move upward in this world.
Well, hypergamy is a thing, right? That's female hypergamy, which is what we were seeing already now, which is like, like 80% of the women going after 10% of the men, right? Like, if you look at the dating pools and stuff like that, that's just biology. That's a thing that happens. But like you're right in that their exposure to everybody in the office, and not just to the men, either,
to the other women.
Yeah, because like so my wife, when she was still working in the hospital, she, like, when we just got married, right? She brought to my attention, like, always in the lunchroom, like, all the women would do is just get together and bitch about their partners, bitch about their husbands, and how stupid they are, and how awful they are, and lazy they are, and how they don't listen, and they don't do this and this. And like, my wife is like not participating. She's just sort of rolling her eyes, going like, "Bitch, you chose that guy. like that's your fault. If you think he sucks, it's your fault. You chose him." But like, then the other thing is that if one lady's cheating on somebody at the office and they confide in another lady about it, it opens another door. Right. It opens another door to them to
consider that possibility. Yeah.
Totally. Then you don't factor in like the commutes, sometimes they like ride share, sometimes they're on transit, or, gotta stay late at the office. It's like a thing. And on top of it too, is like, there's just a lot going on with women in the workplace. It's a big problem. It's a big problem, because what it does, first of all, it causes inflation. So
that's my point number two.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. I won't steal that. You go ahead and run with that. And I'll
so moving on from the divorce side of things, like, that's our culture being destroyed, but then it's also destroyed our economy, because like I earn, I'm in a very high echelon in my industry as with what the money that I make. And I'm not like poor, but I look at my expenses and my savings, and and I think, well, how the fuck would I, you know, how do I support a family with this money? There are times where something bad happens and I fret on, is this, can I the car breaks down, can I afford this repair? Or
Mhm.
if I were to get sick, could I go a month without working? Or could I afford to have my appendix removed or something at this stage in my life? And in my early 30s, where my grandparents were on, like, they were on kid number 4 or
Yeah.
or 5.
Based.
And even my parents, by the time my parents were 30, I was born. And my
Mhm.
parents waited until much later
Mhm.
to have kids. And so I consider the fact that my grandfather made like $30,000 a year and raised 5 kids, had a large home, a 4 or 5 bedroom home, had a stay-at-home wife, and 2 cars, and they went on 2 vacations a year cross country, driving to go or more, to visit family or to go spend the summer at the cabin and all this stuff. And I'm just like, well, how has our economy gotten so bad where there are couples of working professionals earning more than I do, both incomes in their house, and they're like, well, how do we afford this mortgage? We need to, save on this thing and save on this thing. When our grandparents were doing it for uh, my less than half of what I make. My grandparents had 7 people living on less than half of what I make as one person, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know if this is enough money to support one fucking adult man. And uh, I feel like adding that additional income added a lot of excessive and unwarranted spending. Now we need to, like, when our
You need 2
grandparents were,
cars to get to 2
yeah,
different jobs. You need 2 job. You got to pay for daycare or childcare or a babysitter to come and take in, and then somebody else is raising your kid
yeah,
while you're doing that.
yeah,
But
there's definitely that aspect, but there's also, like, in our grandparents' time, because $100 was a lot of money. If you bought a
yeah.
raincoat for $100, you were expecting that raincoat to last you 10 years or more. If
Mhm.
you bought a pair of shoes for $100, you expected that pair of shoes to last you for several years. If you
Yep.
you know you bought clothes that were made to last, you bought when you bought a home appliance. The fucking fridge that my grandparents bought when they got married in the 50s was still in their fucking house when they moved out in the when my grandmother moved out in the early 2000s. I
Right.
believe she took that refrigerator to the house she moved into, and then that refrigerator was finally given to one of my aunts or uncles, and I assume it's still working.
Well, that's planned
Meanwhile,
obsolescence. Have we
yeah,
have we covered
meanwhile,
planned
like,
obsolescence on the
we
show?
have covered planned
Okay.
obsolescence. Like,
Okay. Okay.
today, these days, you buy these appliances and it's just like, yeah, I remember my dad bought a microwave and it lasted like 10 months. $120 microwave, 1,000 watt or
Disposable.
whatever, just like
Yeah.
a fucking disposable thing. Just started like fucking buzzing and
Yeah.
popping and
Can't fix
burning.
it. Can't take it
Yeah.
anywhere to get it fixed. It's
We're
garbage.
spending
Yeah.
thousands of dollars on these like boxes that make our lives fucking miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I know there's a word for it. People who pine for a
It's
simpler time or are nostalgic for an era that they didn't experience. But
mm.
I'm really starting to, like, draw you start to follow the threads back to where did we
There's
start
a
to lose course? Where
there's
did
a
we
lot
get
of
that?
catalyst points, and that is definitely one
Yeah.
of them. That is definitely one of them. Oh, I look at it this way when we bring up about it. It's like, I know you're not a big sports guy, but I think you'll get this analogy, right? It's steroids in baseball. Okay.
Yeah.
It's steroids in baseball. So, like, people complain all the time. They're like, well, like, I mean, who's it doing harm to? The steroids in baseball, but to the guy, the steroid user. It's like, yeah, but like it causes the potential for some major health issues if done improperly. Plus, it makes everybody who's not on the juice like have a disadvantage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, I talked about this with my friend. Like, I was talking about usury, right? So the idea of like lending out money at an interest, was making money off of money. Like it's in the Bible. It's like super no, but we do it all the time. We do it with credit cards. We do it with mortgages. We do it all these things. We turn a blind eye to it. Try not doing it. Try living a life usury free. It's way more difficult than anybody can. You can't even imagine. Because like, what's going to happen, right? What are you going to do? You're going to save every dollar extra so you can buy in cash a home for yourself, right? Like in cash, all by yourself. And then what? Like, because you're going to be bidding against somebody else, and that somebody else has got an approval for a mortgage that is going to be either higher or lower. And that's what shoots up the cost of the houses. Mm-hmm. On top of that, going back to like the idea of the divorce aspect, right? So if you've got these two people, they're separated. They only come home when they're tired and like annoyed at the end of the night, both of them tired and annoyed. And they come back together and it's like, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go take the kids to, to soccer practice. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you get this resentment that's built. The whole thing is an attack on the family. And like you watch like Mad Men, or you see like you hear about old timey like university times. It's like, oh, we didn't let our women get educated. It's like, no, that's not how it worked. Don't start thinking that there was like, how dare you teach that girl to read? That wasn't a thing. But what was a thing is that a lot of times they would go to university to meet a husband, or they get into the workforce to meet a husband. You watch Mad Men, the AMC Mad Men, and like, what was it?
Those
a lot of them are in a typing pool.
Yeah.
They're just there to meet a husband so they don't have to work anymore. And the thing is that like,
and I'll volunteer. If some doctor woman wants to marry me and make me a stay-at-home husband, I'll fucking do it.
You won't. It's miserable. It's miserable. You don't.
It doesn't
you'll hate it quickly.
No, I think raising a family would be the most fulfilling thing you could do. If you
when the roles are done right. Yeah, because like when we moved back to Canada, right? When we moved back to Canada, my wife and I had a thing where it was like, oh, look, we're both going to go and try to get some work because we needed to get work right away. Whoever gets a job first goes to work, and the other person stays home and raises our son at the time. I love my son. I don't get me wrong. I love hanging out with him, doing all that kind of stuff. It's just that like men are built for out of work, if that makes sense. We're destined. Our domain is outside the house. All the bills, all the errands outside of the house, that kind of stuff is our domain. The inside the house is more for the mother, for the mom, right? Like, I mean, that's why we defer. It's like, oh, they're nesting, they're making the house nice, they're doing all those. I'm not trying to be sexist about it. It's just we have to go and do these things, right? Like I got to get the car fixed. Okay, who's going to do it? I'm going to go get the car fixed, right? Like that's just the way it is. It's not because I like it. It's just because I'm more biologically like programmed to handle those kind of things. Whereas when it comes to like in my bedroom or something like that, like, I missed the laundry basket, like, and my brain goes into like blind mode. I don't even see the mess. She does. I don't. That's just the way it is. I not every guy's like me, but like a lot of them are. And the thing is like, I love hanging out with my son. I love hanging out with my daughter, but my wife has this natural skill set that works so much better where because we homeschool, like we pulled her out of the workforce, right? Like she had a job. She had a job when we were in Calgary. She had a job. And I was making more and more. And every time that she would go in, I would have to watch my daughter while she went into work, because why pay for a daycare or something like that when we've got somebody there? But at the time I was doing piecework. So the thing was we kind of looked at each other. I was like, look, like every time you go to work, you make such and such amount of money. And I got to work. I don't work on those days. So I turned that down. But in one day I can make more money than you do in the whole month. And so like, just let me work and everybody wins. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And our life is like way better. Like it was great then, but it's like way better when only one of us is working. And it's great. I know my situation is completely work from home. Every meal, almost every meal of my life I have with my family. I have my breakfast with my family. I have my lunch with my family. I have my dinner with my family. My family is 20 paces that way, and they're always around, and I get to hang out with them. My marriage is super strong, and like the other thing is like you take it actually also has an effect on voting, right? Because if you take the woman into the workforce, right? Because like a family unit, like you talk about the issues together, you hatch a plan together, you have a family strategy together. But if you're like always going to different places, you're gonna have different influences. You're gonna vote different. My vote would, our votes would cancel each other out, and that's what we've seen. We've seen that. There were so many stories of like, I made my husband sleep on the couch because he voted for Trump and blah blah blah, and it's just like it's bullshit. But like it happens, and yeah, man, both parties working. My sister's an expert. She's an expert in this field. She works in that field of divorce stuff, and like she knows like this is the case, the place, like, and it is a huge problem. The other thing is like jealousy. Jealousy comes in where it's like, where that you've got spouses competing with each other over who can, get the most clout in their work, or be the breadwinner, or who can, like it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
And it totally takes everything away from like, look, man, like we had it better when it was the man goes out and works and brings home brings home the resources, and the wife tends the resources and allocates the resources, and you have this yin and yang. You have this like perfect balance, and it's always going to work. That's the way it's always going to. You're gonna have stress. You're gonna have stress like, the husband gets laid off, and then you got to do something about it. But like in an ideal world setting, yeah, the wife is at home helping to raise the kids, and not somebody else. That's the other thing. It's like not somebody else. Like your generation was after mine. There were more divorced parents in your generation than in mine. There were already more in my generation than were in my parents' generation.
And there are more in my like younger siblings than there will be in mine. Yeah.
It's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's insanity. And like,
and now
divorce,
both parents are like having to maintain a residence and provide a certain amount for the children, and so they're then
great
both
for the
fighting
economy.
uphill. Yeah,
great for the economy. You got two apartments you got to take care of, or two homes. You got two sets of vehicles. You got two TVs, two internet bills, two electricity bills, two water bills, two phone bills. Like it's just
and the husband is undercut because he has to pay for a portion of that back to the wife.
Somebody else in the middle takes
if that person makes more money. My last point on this is, so you have divorce, you have inflation, and then you have make work, which is we've really turned the job pool into, and especially in the United States, we've like demonized skilled labor and promoted unskilled labor, and promoted like these departments and middle management and David Graeber's bullshit jobs, where we need a place to kind of put these people where they can be out of the way, but they need to earn a certain amount of money so that the system doesn't fall apart. And so a great example of this is HR departments. We're always like, there's this whole like, there's the income disparity, the wage gap. A woman makes 77 cents for every dollar a man makes, equal pay for equal work, and that kind of stuff. And I agree, equal pay for equal work. But the fact of the matter is that like when you control for all those factors, the wage gap pretty much disappears. It's down to like 3% or less.
No, it goes the other way. In fact, in a lot of the studies, it goes the other way, and then we don't talk about that because we got to live the lie.
But a great example of this is HR departments, which are overwhelmingly women. There are somewhere in 90 to 95% women typically in any HR department. They're usually completely oversized. You'll have a third of a Fortune 500 company, a third or more will be dedicated to human resources, which is like hiring and internal employee disputes and firing. And really, they just work to CYA for the corporation so that when they do fire you, they can go like, well, we have this process of firing a person. We did it, so you can't, claim workman's comp, or you can't sue us for wrongful termination. And they will they create rules to justify their existence, and then they will use their biases to investigate a claim and diminish a person. There are thousands of stories online about a guy getting sent to HR because he didn't treat his female employee or female supervisor or female coworker like a dog, and rub her head and act super pleased to see her all the time, and then or he said something the wrong way and it was interpreted incorrectly, and then that goes to an HR person. And especially in tech or engineering, where you get these guys that are socially awkward, and they're really smart, they've got a lot going on in their head, but they're just not meant to fucking interact with people, and they interact with that one person weirdly, and then they get complained about and they get booted out. And so that's why we're seeing this move for, we have to diversify and get diversity and inclusion and get these people in here. And I don't think any of it adds to our productivity in any way. And I feel like these, if every company in the world got rid of their HR department, I think their HR problems would be solved, because those people are spreading gossip and bickering and making work for people to hoops to jump through. Oh, you need to take this little training, you need to do this little thing. And then I sit at my computer and I'm like, Tab took the mandatory here's when I don't get training. Bing. El Chaco took the mandatory here's when I don't get training. Bing.
No,
Buck did not finish his mandatory here's how I don't get training. Let me send an email to his supervisor. Clackety, clackety, clackety,
warning.
Clackety, send. Yeah. And then, it's just that is, if we didn't have women in the workforce, probably wouldn't need to have mandatory sexual harassment training. I'm not, it's just.
Well, and here's the other thing from a value point of view, because you were saying about equal pay for equal work, or equal, I would say equal pay for equal output would be, because it's you and I both are working on conveyor belt or whatever, and it's I'm doing technically the same job and I'm spending technically the same amount of time in front of this, but if I'm worth more to the company to send this off that way, then then I should get paid more. But also too, I should go and ask for more pay. And so there's the other side of the issue, which my sister brought up. Women don't ask for raises as much. And
they don't like confrontation.
They don't they got to do it through the HR department. But if it's on their side. But so for example, in my work, I dictate my own prices. People ask me all the time, what do you charge? What do you charge? Right? And I tell them what I charge.
Yeah.
And my charge fluctuates depending on what I do, what the job is and stuff like that. But if there's and I've actually trained long time ago, I trained a girl to do what I do. And what ended up happening is she just kept undercutting her. She had low self-esteem about it, a little mousy about it, and undercut the price all the time. So for another year, I had to drop my prices because she was working in the same pools, even though I was doing better quality.
Yeah. Oh no. Chaco.
They used her as a bargaining chip against.
So the last thing you said, even we were in the same pools, even though we had better quality.
Yeah, and that happens. And so it sucks for everybody, because that's the other thing. Nobody wins, and there's that whole thing of that. There's that meme of I'm not gonna stay at home and do a bunch of work so that I can give value to my husband, while he makes money, but I'm gonna go to work and work for some other dude and help him make money you're cucking at that point. Your wife is making somebody else more money than you're worth. If you're paying out these things, it's just ridiculous. And I had another point I wanted to bring up about it. It was though I of work spouses, like you brought it up before, but like there's this
Yeah.
this concept. Have you heard about work spouses? Where it's like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you get to work and you go out for work, you go out for lunch with the same person, they just happen to be the other sex, and you confide in them, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about getting a present for my wife for her birthday, and you get a suggestion, and one thing leads to another, and you got to go on like a, you know, like a Simpsons, Homer Simpson going on the convention with Mindy, and ends up, you know, like those kind of things happen. It's like that is a real thing that happens in workplaces all over the place.
Well, what's
And
funny is that has like transcended now, right? So my friend, I have a really good friend, and his wife referred to me as his work boyfriend. And
yeah,
and then like because we're the same sex, we can't just be like good friends, close friends, you know. Because
Yeah.
our relationship definitely transcended being at work together. Like we started to be
Right.
friends outside of work, and we're still very good friends now. And
Right.
but like the whole idea of work husband, work wife, well,
Yeah.
now you have like this gay relationship thing going on. It's like, well,
Yeah,
you know,
because you have a buddy
not
at work.
really. I'm not really interested in any like there is absolutely zero chance of us getting together because he is primarily and only attracted to women and I'm only attracted to women, but we just
like
like
you
to
said
talk because we're
primarily.
two guys. Well, I don't know if
Yeah.
he's like I don't know if he's a super straight. I'm a super straight. I don't know if he's a super straight.
Fair enough. Good issue, man. And I like how
Yeah.
you couched it, because we went in different directions on that. Because, you know, like I got my traditional side of it. It's like, yeah, it's just better for everybody. It's better for the household. But you actually came at it. You came at the same issue on that, just
Yeah.
a slightly different direction that I would have taken it. But I agree with you on every one of the points you made on this one.
Yeah.
Good issue.
And I'm not like I you know, like you were talking about, women used to go to university or get jobs to, you know, find a dating pool to be exposed to someone. I don't think they should just like send every woman home. But and like there are women that are on my staff now that can outwork like there were women in Tulsa that would outwork the male stagehands hands down, and that's the same way there is now. And you know, if I were like choosing them, but I choose them based on their productivity. And like today I was going through and processing raises for the next phase of the season. Well, it's actually fucking the fall because we're going to this renovation, so everyone's out of work for a while. But as my like apology when you get to come back, when it's like, all right, we've got work again, I went through and I was just like, how many hours have you done since we last processed raises? And I just like put all those hours in their sheets, sorted from highest to lowest, and I looked at what the kind of like, because there were what is it, strata, you know, where it's like these people were working, you know, these many hours, this group was kind of in this, and I was like, all right, all these people are getting $2, all these people are getting $1.50, all these people are getting $1, all these people are getting 50 cents, and it's like, yeah, some of these people are maybe better quality at this or that, but when HR comes around, they're like, why did you choose to give this person a $2 raise and this person a $1 raise? I can go like, well, this person worked 300 hours in the last 6 months and this person worked 50.
Right.
And it's like, that's a completely objective measure that no one can argue with. And so like, I've covered
Right.
my ass from HR instead of being able to be like, you're a really, really great electrician and you're really, really great at leading crews. You really deserve more money, but I can't like quantify that as anything other than my opinion. Hours worked is
Right.
a hard set number, so there's like a little bit of unfairness there. But
Yeah,
the
because like,
people
what
that
if they're
work a lot,
just shitty at their work and they took longer to do something?
well, that does happen too. Looking at that list, like I can look and go like, yeah, absolutely, every one of these people deserve to get the big raise, and every
Right.
single one of these people deserve to get the smaller raise.
Well, there's also the dynamic shift. I don't know. Like, have you worked in an all male job before? Like where it's just all male staff?
No, I think my whole life it's always been a mix of genders.
It's the fucking best.
Yeah.
It's just the fucking best, because you can call somebody out and like no tears are gonna happen. You can be like direct. You can be low context society with them
Yeah.
and be direct, and everything's fine. And then you can call somebody out. You can joke. You can make fun of somebody without it being like a big deal. Like, and then like, and like, And birthdays don't require a halt to everything for cake in the break room. So,
Yeah. But
that's
anyway,
a good
that's
issue,
my
man.
issue. Women in the
Great issue.
workforce.
Awesome.
Cancel me. Call 704-750-9434 and tell me how you want me to be kicked off the show for being a misogynist. But anyway, that's our episode this week. So thanks everybody for listening. Until next time, I'm Tab Burt.
I'm El Chaco.
See you guys next week.
Ciao, ciao.
If you want to call into the Here's How I Get hotline, call us at 704-750-9434 and tell us what you don't get. Or you can visit us on the Discord and leave us a voicemail there. I've got one, I think, from the Discord today. If this fucking thing will click to save its fucking piece of shit life, thank you. I absolutely hate Mac computers more than anything in the world.
Yes, hello there. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode centered around podcasts, and since it was a request that came from me. The Spike Producer request came in when a podcaster named Carl screwed up his live show in New York, and I want to get back at him for that screw up. HWIDG had survived the brink of death, so I figured we may as well use this opportunity to take that on Carl. It was that, as well as that, there are now ads in WATP. No offense to Carl. I respect his work, and I'm currently working my way into getting caught up on the bonus episodes. It's just that his show became borderline unlistenable. It's hard for me to get into the current episodes without cutting into some pre-baked commercial you typically hear on terrestrial radio. Or in some circumstances, this week's episode brought a bit better help. Just, not good. It boggles my mind why the ad-free episodes are not on Patreon. Yeah, Patreon has unedited streams, but it's still a hassle for me to take those streams and convert them into MP3s. It's for this reason why I picked advertisements as the biggest issue in the world. For better or for worse, I fear that pre-baked adverts are going to be the next thing for advertising these days. Now, as for that pizza guy weirdo, don't worry. I've been informed that he got his order delivered, but I heard he is now in a mood for some desserts. It's whatever. It's been an honor seeing you in Philadelphia, and I hope we get to do this again soon. Gagee!
Cut him off. That was Dealey 18.
Thanks
who I
again.
met in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man. I gotta catch up on this WATP at some point in time. I mean, you guys talk about it. We based a whole episode around it. I've never listened to it. I should probably check it out at some point in time and get the.
And then
lore.
next thing you know, you'll be going on the show doing your own Stuttering John impression.
I don't even know who Stuttering John is.
You can have the best. You'll be right away. You'll be able to get the best Stuttering John impression in Paraguay.
I actually did that to my son. We went to this place called Sky Games, and I love like, you know, messing with my kids. But we went to this Sky Games thing, and they had like one of those like mallet, like hit the hammer thing, and it like, you know, to test your strength. And like, you know, we went to this thing, and I ended up smacking that thing and setting the record for the day, right? And so the whole time I was boasting to my son, I was like, well, I mean, clearly I'm the strongest man in Paraguay. I'm the strongest Paraguayan in Paraguay. And he's like, that doesn't mean you're the strongest. Like, look, I don't see anybody else who hit that hammer as hard as I hit that hammer. And so clearly I'm the greatest. I'm the strongest man in Paraguay. Paraguay is stronger because we are here. You have to understand that, son. And he just wasn't buying it.
Yeah. Kids, that's Tony. I thought there was one for you that was in the back catalog.
Probably somewhere.
Yes, here it is.
Uh-oh.
Tell me if you've heard this one.
Hey, Tab. Hey, Chaco. This is Player 4. This is a response to asking who listens to the Dick Show anymore. And I still listen to the Dick Show. I'm a longtime fan. I'm not going to mince words here. The show fucking sucks these days. The Dick Show is terrible. We're hearing about, I don't know, degeneracy and gay furries and stuff. But I still stand by the fact that Dick is a great storyteller. And usually what I do is I'll listen to the first half hour of the show. Usually Dick's got a funny story to tell, and then the rest of it I either listen to it on 2 times speed or I turn it off if it's awful. So I don't really know if I'm a Dick Show listener anymore. I guess I am. I just listen to the pieces that I like. That's really it. As far as why I still listen to it, because, man, there's so many shows out there, but half of them fucking suck. Even COVID really ruined a lot of the shows I like. You just get all these people giving their shit-lib takes about the different topics of the week and telling me why capitalism is bad. I've listened to so many shows, and I'm halfway through, I'm just listening to it, it's whatever. Then they go and start talking about fucking capitalism. Why? Well, these people are so fucking stupid, I don't have time to listen to their opinions on anything anymore. But the Dick Show, that doesn't really happen still, I might not like the content of the show all the time, but I could still get through it most of the time. Yeah. Anyway, goodbye.
I agree with him.
Funny.
Dick is a great storyteller. And in fact, like, I think I'm like Buck with the Ghostbusters. I think Dick would be a fantastic wrestling personality, like a wrestling announcer or a color commentator or a manager or something like that, because he's got the voice for it. And like, he is a great storyteller, and he knows when to slow it down and to talk real slow like this, and then pop into like his like big laughter and all this kind of. He's really good at telling stories. Problem is that you're right. Like a lot of them are degenerate. Like it was at first for me. It was like, it was his gimmick, right? Like it's his wild and like liberal,
Wild and crazy guys
gimmick. And after a while, you're like, exactly. But at a certain point, you get to the point where you're like, it's like watching your cool wine aunt. Who's still telling you about her cruises and stuff. Like, and you got drunk. I got it. I got the point the first time. You got drunk. God, great story, Aunt Phyllis. So like,
what a story, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. But I like how he says like it sucks these days. It's like, it's I don't know. I've felt the degeneracy from it since 2017. And like I just backed away because I was like, oh, it's the same sort of thing. He has good guests. He gets good guests. And he is a good storyteller, and he's a funny, talented guy. So like, I mean, there's a lot going for it. I don't slight anybody for.
And he has that really handsome banana on his live shows.
A little strange at this point, but fair enough. Yeah. Well, and also too, he made a point in there. Player 4 made a point about how like all these other podcasts like make these like lefty turns and all this kind of stuff. That's the origin of this podcast. Because like when we talked about it with when Tony, when we were doing the last podcast, like a lot of my favorite podcasts became unlistenable because they got all super political. And it was like, okay, like I could say I don't like political, or you can see a vacuum in the market and go and try to fill that vacuum. And so to a degree, that's what this show did. And I thought the Dick Show was doing. That was actually my wrong take on it. Was like, like let's keep going in that direction. And it's not necessarily like it's two different vibes, right? Because that's again like the libertarian anarchist type, ANCAP type of vibe, and everybody's got their different takes on it. I'm going to say this one's right of center, but I'm not going to say it's like extreme or anything like that. And it seems extreme compared to every other podcast out there because every other podcast window is the echoing. Yeah.
Here's one from Sage.
Hey guys, it's Sage. First of all, want to say that's a great fucking bit with the interrupting fucking ads that you were putting in. I'm not that far into the episode, but that's fucking hilarious. Fuck fucking Carl's podcast. I don't even fucking remember the name right now. Fuck him. Fucking that completely made me not listen to it anymore. He can suck a fucking dick, goddamn greedy Jew. But also I want to fucking
They're called people of nose. Come on now. It's uncalled for.
Throw in, here's what I don't get. Why the fuck is this fucking semi driver in front of me? I'm at work right now, and I'm fucking near one of our warehouses. And this motherfucker, he had at least 300 feet behind him and 100 feet in front of him. And he cannot fucking get to the dock. I fucking hate semi-drivers. If anyone is a fucking semi-driver that listens to this, fucking kill yourselves. Like, fucking kill yourself. All of you are fucking
half our
retards.
Patreon.
First time driving? Like, what the fuck? How? This is a 12-point turn at this point. He's taking more than 5 minutes to make a fucking docking procedure. That is so fucking easy. Okay, that's it. Bye.
I just want to pull a page out of Tony's book and say, I disavow. We love our truckers. Truckers make this economy run.
Yes.
Truckers are like the number one consumer of podcasts. Like,
Yeah.
they're the best.
And they bring you goods like,
Yeah.
like burnt cows from exploding methane factories.
I like my steak well done, all the way done.
Get out.
Well, here's what I don't get. I don't get when 2 weeks notice for quitting a job turned into I'm quitting today. Like I don't know how many people I've had lately at my job tell me, hey, I'm putting in my 2 weeks today, so it'll be, and then I'll ask them specifically, okay, so you can work until the 24th or whatever. So, yeah, sure. And then I'll schedule them, and then they don't show up and ghost us, or they, get to the last week or whatever, like, hey, I'm not coming in this week because of whatever. It's like, do you not understand what 2 weeks means? Do you not understand that if your job that you're wanting to go to calls me up and asks about it, I'm going to specifically mention this, that you're a liar? Like, I don't understand. Like, or for that matter, the fact that 2 weeks doesn't seem to be the standard anymore. The standard seems to be send the manager a text, hey, I'm glad you hired me. Happy to work for you for so long. I won't be able to work after today. Like, quitting, I don't know. It's just super fucking annoying that people will not either drop you at the, just drop you or not follow through on what they said. Whatever.
Yeah, I agree. That's super annoying. But I will say, I will caveat this with one thing. I believe that your notice should be proportional to the advance in which you will receive your schedule.
That seems fair.
Yeah,
That seems
because
fair.
I remember working in retail, and you would get like next week's schedule on Wednesday. So Wednesday you have the schedule for Monday. So you're talking about 5 days. In which case, to me, 5 days notice should be plenty of time for you to find someone to replace me. In that kind of example, the last, when I worked for the venue in Tulsa, we had this manager. Like, you could look at the schedule and go, okay, we have a Broadway load in, we have an opera load in, we have a ballet load in, we have like this small show, we have this like one nighter. That stuff's all booked years in advance. Like these slots, even if you don't know what the specific show is necessarily, like the slot is going to be this type of show, and you could kind of rough it in, and then as you get closer and you get more information, you can like massage it out. But he would give us our schedule. So Wednesday we would get a hard schedule for the following week starting on Monday, and then a soft schedule for the week following starting on Monday. So we're getting like, for the soft schedule, we're getting 10 days notice. We're getting 12 days notice. For the hard schedule, we're getting 5 days notice.
Right.
And it drove me fucking nuts because you couldn't plan your life. Like, I want to be a team player. If I want to try and do things on my day off so that I can, get as much money as humanly possible while I'm at work. But what I ended up having to start doing was I had to start putting in for vacation time for absolutely anything I needed to have off work. so that he wouldn't schedule me on those. Like it would lock him out of scheduling me on those days, and
Mhm.
then I would just earn so much overtime that my vacation time would get refunded back to me almost all the time. When I
Right.
left that job, I worked there for 2 years and I had like 140, 150 hours of vacation time that came
Oh,
back
wow.
to me after they stole 2 weeks of vacation time, 80 hours during the pandemic. So like I had a lot of time built up. And so like when I took this job and it was like, all right, Tab, you have to schedule the department. And I was like, let's get to it. I have the schedule until September out in employees' hands, ready to go. Now, every so often we get thrown a curveball and we got to like kind of massage it. It's like, this week's a little fucked up. Like, what can we do? Like, what can I change in my life? What can you change in your life? Let's find some compromise. Let's, get these like couple hours here or there changed and covered. And you know what? Everyone's super willing to do it. Everyone's like, yeah, no problem. Let's, we can figure that out because they know they can look at that schedule and be like, you know what? We don't have much going on, May 15th through May 21st. You mind if I take vacation time? Fucking go for it. I can make this work. Or, hey, I need to go out of town. I need to go to Philly this weekend to go see a live show. Do you mind covering these couple of days that I'm not going to be here? Absolutely. Like we're all working as a team. Now, I wouldn't expect someone that works for me to give me like 7.5 months notice, but in that case, 2 weeks I think would be reasonable. And I feel like I would get it because I try to be a communicative boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like there's something weird about the 2 weeks notice thing. Like I get it from an employer standpoint, but it's funny because it's like it's only when somebody is quitting to go to another, like usually to go to another job,
Mm-hmm.
and that 2 weeks is going to be the most garbage 2 weeks. You're not typically. I mean, sometimes you get a cool person who will like train their replacement or something, but like most of the time, no. Most of the time, it turns into like total work to rule, and like I'm not going to listen to their bullshit anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. I did it once when I was young. I gave my 2 weeks notice, and my boss sat in a desk behind me,
Mm-hmm.
so was constantly like looking at what I was doing on my computer to make sure I was working. He was like micromanager of everything, and I remember
Why'd
that
you
last
quit?
2 weeks. Exactly. Because I got a better paying job elsewhere. But I remember because at the time like Yahoo had like games you could play online,
Yeah.
like little flash games. So I was just playing bowling the whole time, and just like in this whole way of like knowing full well he's watching me play this, and like he'd be like, "Hey Joel, can you get to this do this thing for me now?" And like I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm right on that," and just keep bowling. And like do it later because I was so pissed at this guy. This guy was awful. Like he actually he made me use up a vacation day because I wanted to take the morning off to go to my grandmother's funeral, and it was so but like you got to make sure you're back here right away. And so like I was like like still like I had a very emotional morning, and I came back from my grandmother's funeral, and it's like, and you're going to take that off of your, like, that's what he said. He said it when I got back. He's like, so we're going to dock that out of your like vacation pay. I was like, you're a dick, man. Like you're the
What a
worst.
piece of shit.
But like, I've been the employer too. And there's no like flip side. Like, so like when you're an employee and you give them the 2 weeks notice and you gotta work that 2 weeks. Like there's no equivalent the other way. You don't like fire somebody and be like, okay, so I'm going to fire you, but after 2 weeks, you're not, you're going to be out of here, pal. Like
They could be paying a severance.
Yeah, they often are. Yeah, they often are. Yeah.
The other thing on the 2 weeks is the whole like training your replacement, and that so many companies don't value like overlapping. So they don't want to bring someone in, to
who's leaving to like
let's hire your position out. I gave 30 days notice when I left my job in Tulsa before moving to St. Louis. They didn't have anybody when on May 28th when I turned in my stuff. There was no one to replace that. They had hired 5 people to like divvy up my work, but there wasn't someone who was taking my title and running with the football. That person didn't take the title until December, I think, of this year.
Wow.
Or last year. Yeah, it like shocking. So on the employee side, it's definitely like soul sucking that last 2 weeks. Just be like, well, I'm on my way out.
But on the employer side, I mean, like I can probably guess based on like I see post after post after post. It's also a generational thing, right?
Mhm.
Like it's a lot of Gen Z that's like bailing out early. It's not. It's just there's this honor in the workplace thing, which the workplace hasn't earned. Let's be fair. Like a lot of the workplaces have not earned the honor. You know, it's like not like
Yeah.
you have this like this level playing field where like, yeah, I work for this company, the company respects me, and I respect my company, and we have this mutual respect. Those days they're done.
Long gone.
They're gone. They're gone. You are a cog in the machine. You are meat. You are human resource. And
Yeah.
like that is that. You're barely a person. And so like it does go both ways. And so I can see it from the employee standpoint, which is like, well, the fuck, why would I come in here? So what the guy was pointing out though is like where my issue lies with this particular case from our caller
Is that you
is
said
the
you would
person-
do it?
you said you'd do it and then you didn't
Yeah.
do it. That's just fucking despicable.
Yeah.
Right. And again, an expert liar. Right. Like it's another liar thing.
Here's another one from Player 4.
Hey guys, it's Player 4 here. So I've always wanted to learn how to juggle my entire life, and recently I set my mind on that, and I learned how to juggle. I can juggle 3 balls, and that's really cool. I know how cool. But anytime, here's what I don't get. Anytime I show off my juggling ability, I always get the same question from the non-jugglers in the audience. They always ask me, "Can you do 4?" No, motherfucker, I can't do 4. Is 3 not good enough for you? Is 3 not... I'm kind of sick. Sorry. But yeah. Can you do 3, you bitch? It pisses me off. I'm going to go cough my head off now for raising my voice. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, player 4, can you do 3 axes or chainsaws? Can you do 3 flaming torches? Is that the next upgrade? Is that what's your next step, Val?
I've been
it's,
thinking about learning to juggle because my coworker juggles, and above these lockers in our back hallway are like there's a bag that has a bunch of juggling knives and torches that someone left behind. And if you don't know anything about juggling knives and torches are very expensive apparently. And
Oh,
there's
really?
also like boxes and boxes of juggling clubs. And it's like, well, fuck, all this stuff's here. There were 2 unicycles, and one of them fell one day, and then this whole thing, like, oh, we got to find out whose unicycles these are. And before I could be like, oh yeah, that's my unicycle, because I've always wanted to learn how to ride a unicycle. Someone got in touch with someone and figured out whose unicycle it was, and it was taken. It had been abandoned. It had been left there for like that unicycle's been up there for like 2 years. Oof. Well, shit. I fucking should have taken that unicycle.
3 years would have been the limitations of that one. It's funny, like juggling down here is you see it more frequently at like traffic lights. So like traffic lights down here, there's a lot of action at the traffic lights. So whether it's some jackass coming out to wash your windshield that you don't want, and sometimes they'll come in from the other side so you don't see them coming, so they already get the water on there like before, and you're like, oh fuck, and you start putting on the like windshield wipers immediately to get them to go away. But and there's other people selling new windshield wipers. But there's often jugglers at the lights, and like a lot of them are like kids and stuff, and like and so I always have like this little change compartment that I put like small stuff in, so that like when I'm at those stoplights I can give something. But I had a friend of mine who from Canada who, when she was down here, she had a rule. She's like, if they drop one, they get no money. And then she would like scold them on the way by. She was like, yeah, you dropped one. And then just, and I was like, and then like, actually like they'll have guys that'll do it with like the foot juggling. So like they'll have a soccer ball they'll keep up and do crazy like tricks with that. But like my favorite was just a simple guy. And going back to player 4, he had 3. He was juggling 3. He was juggling 3 limes, and he was going, but it wasn't that he was juggling 3 limes. It was that he was in like flip flops, and he was like doing a little like jig little dance afterwards. And I was just super impressed. I was just like, like he was doing it. I was more impressed with the footwork because he was doing all his footwork and his flip flops stayed on. and he was juggling, and he timed it all perfectly with the light, and he didn't drop any of the limes. So he definitely got he got a gratuity from us on that one. But yeah, man, I admire people who can juggle. It's a cool skill. It's a good skill, and
Maybe I'll
keep
learn to
at
do
it,
this
man.
summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys get jugglers and like street entertainers. We just have like people in ratty clothes holding up signs that say anything helps. And then they get pissed at you when you hand them the classifieds. Like, what are you fucking anything about? Anyway, here's another one.
Hi, I'm calling in at the pizza place to inform you that I got my order. It was the best pizza that I had in a while. It's so good, and I would give Jocko Buck and Tab's Pizza Plaza a 5-star rating 5 times in a row. Now, I'm in the mood for some desserts, and I'm very, very hungry for some desserts. A good pizza order wouldn't be complete without some desserts. Oh man, if I could go for some ice creams like, huh? Oh my God! It's not an ice cream truck! Get back here! I gotta order 12 ice cream sandwiches!
So fat or jerking off?
What I want to know was that sent to the Google line?
Yes.
It's like, I want to know what that transcript looked like.
Oh, I just clicked
that
away from
transcript
it
would've been
too.
Awesome.
Did you guys? Have you ever been to a place that has like the dessert pizzas, like the apple pie pizza or the cheesecake pizza?
Yeah, we
Oh,
used
man,
to.
I love
I
some
worked
apple
at
pie pizza.
I worked at Pizza Hut back in the day, and there was a period of time where we had the dessert pizza. I liked it, man, because we even put the icing and the crumble on it. Oh,
Yeah. Here's another one from Player 4.
I forgot to insert my incredible joke that I came up with for my voicemail because I was dying of coughing. So here it is. The only thing you can juggle is men's balls, you faggot. Thank you. Goodbye.
He wins. He wins.
The term is Bud Light American, sir. We don't use the F slur on this podcast anymore.
I'm gonna go of Tony. I'm gonna be like, I avow.
I avow this voicemail.
I avow.
Here's another one.
Yeah, speaking of your biggest problems in podcasting, one that's just popped up just within the past couple of days, if you listen to any of the Gas Digital, Legion of Skanks podcasts or anything, the one thing I don't get is putting clips of what you think is funny shit at the beginning of the podcast that took place, in the podcast. It's I don't need a little fucking teaser. I'm going to listen to it no matter what. I just have to skip through the intro more now, so it's kind of fucking pointless. I'm not, Tab, your whole thing with doing funny advertisements is completely different because it's different. Yeah, it's fucking retarded. Don't put fucking clips of yourself at the beginning of the podcast.
Our cold opens are kind of like that, but it was usually it would just drop us into the we'd be having a conversation before the show about whatever, and whoever's editing it would find that where you drop in, you say something unusual or funny, and then there'd be the joke, and then the theme, and then this podcast.
And
would
usually
launch.
they would be at the beginning of the recording. You just be feeling each other out and trying to say what you could and see.
Yeah, you would go pull something in the middle of the episode and drop it in there. I fucking hate that.
I may have done that once or twice at the beginning when we were kind of getting our feet
feeling it out
on the ground. But at a certain point we were just we would be warming up, getting to talk to each other, and then we would be saying something, and then all of a sudden there would be that just obvious one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one. Let's just roll. Okay.
I mean, you guys really should have stopped doing it, and after the first episode, because that was the best one ever. When you guys, so Larry's so this is your podcast, and you want me to introduce you. And you guys are yeah, that's the thing, Larry. And he goes, well, that's just fucking stupid. And then the theme starts.
Yep.
All right. So I used to have this policy where I just played every voicemail, and this policy has been abused. So this is the very last. This is the very last unknown caller voicemail that I'm going to be playing. There were a dozen of them that I went through the beginning of this episode, all about nothing. It was funny at first. It's become unfunny. So here we go. This is whoever was doing this. Congratulations, you ran it into the ground.
This is Steve the plumber. My number is 812-88. A friend of mine told me you had an issue you needed taken care of. Give me a call.
And that one got played because it had the word issue in it.
Issue, yes.
Yeah.
There we go. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Give Steve a call at 812-88. I edited that in real time like a fucking ninja. I'm an audio ninja. I'm an audio samurai, guys. There's a picture of Mad Cucks on my other screen right now, too. Anyway, yeah, so that's the episode. Thank you to everyone that I met in Philadelphia this weekend. That was a ton of fun. I can't wait for the next live show. And thanks to all the patrons for supporting the show. Like I've said many times, absolutely would not be doing this show without you. Sorry to anyone who wasn't able to make it out to Philadelphia. I hope you make it to the next live show. I try and go to as many of them as I can squeeze in. I'm hoping one of these assholes does a live show this summer because I have nothing but time.
And thank you also to all the people who are in the live chat on this. The whole experience way more fun for us, and it does contribute quite a bit.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a part of that as well, one of these days it'd be great for you guys to, if you're listening to this just like in your car or something like that later on, join the Discord. That's usually where you're going to get the heads up ahead of time, right? So, if we've got the heads up to give you, it'd be great to have you on. It adds to the atmosphere. So
Yeah.
I truly appreciate it.
Last week's episode, doing it because we used StreamYard to record, but it was all in a private recording because I didn't know who was going to be where. It was so weird.
It was. It was weird. Yeah, it was just the two of us kind of thing like that. So
yeah,
well, three, and then but what do we got here? I'd love go down to ASE Presents.
We should have an HWIG live show at some point, maybe someday. Maybe we'll do it in Paraguay. That way, no one can come see it.
I said Mexico. I think a live show in Mexico would be the way to go. And then
a segment at one of the live shows would be nice if literally any of these other lazy bastard co-hosts would show up to something.
What do you mean a segment?
Not
you. Mean at like a Dick Show thing, or
yeah? So like this show that we did in Philly. I mean, it started out with a Dick Show segment, and then we went. Oh, this is funny. I didn't tell this story yet. So the show started with the Dick Show segment, and then it went into WATP. And so Dick is like, all right, we're going to have Mad Cucks on the Dick Show segment. So there was a meet and greet before the show, and I'm in the banana costume. I've got all the crowns. I'm in the cape. I'm talking to people. I'm signing autographs, all that deal. House opens for the regular show. I go ahead and sneak backstage. We're hanging out in the green room. I'm psyching myself up for doing the show. Come out as the banana, do the Dick Show segment. And then it's like, all right, the Dick Show segment's over. We're going to say goodnight to Mad Cucks. We're going to bring out Jen from the Jingles department. We're going to bring out Ted from Here's What I Don't Get. We're going to bring out producer Chris. And so I literally get up, I walk backstage, I pull the banana suit off, I put my button-down shirt on, tuck it in, walk right back on stage, sit down as the theme music finishes playing for the WATP segment, sit down in the same seat, and I jump into the show. And even at one point during the segment, I used the wrong voice, I was still in that mode. And so I talked as Mad. I made a point that I was trying to make as in Mad Cook's voice, and I noticed it. And I was like, I'm using the wrong fucking voice. Damn it! And so then post show, I'm talking to people, and I'm me, and now I'm regular me, button down shirt, and I'm talking to this one guy, and he's like, we were gonna hang out, we were gonna meet you in St. Louis because it was someone that I had been talking to on Discord, but you couldn't do it. And it's and Mad Cucks is also in St. Louis, right? And then he pauses for a second, and in real time, I watch him realize, you're Mad Cucks, and I'm like, yeah. I had no idea. I was like, I need to see the video and see how long it took me to go out and come back, and how disheveled I look, because I thought that I probably looked like shit with my hair all matted down and sweaty, but yeah, so it was a Dick Show segment, and then a WATP segment, and then a Creep Off segment. And it was segment by segment. So yeah, maybe we can join them and do a segment on one of those shows.
Or, okay, so the other place that I can get to a lot easier is Miami. So there's periods of the year are direct flights between Asuncion and
Miami.
I think it paused. Yeah, Miami. I can get a direct like a no stop flight to Miami sometimes during the year. So I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. Can I get into your country now without a vaccination proof?
Yeah,
I think
they
I
just
can now.
so we just like the state of emergency ended this month. The emergency use authorization for the vaccine ended this month, and I believe they're no longer requiring vaccines to enter the United States.
Okay.
So, scamdemic's over, everybody. Woo!
For
we
now,
survived it. We survived it. Yeah,
Yay.
until the next thing comes around.
Yeah. I think that would be a way to go. I think, maybe if there was something going on in Miami, that might make a little bit closer for me, because like right now it's like an 18-hour to 24-hour trip for me to get to North America because of the layovers and stuff. So yeah, it's not appealing, but Miami maybe
Someday.
We'll see. Yeah, someday.
Road Rage Miami. Let's make it happen.
Or just a Whidge Fest. We'll just do a Whidge Fest.
See all the widgets. Yeah.
Whidgemania. Awesome.
Yeah. Until next time, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.